Welcome to Monk's Temple. Welcome to this sacred space that exists not in any physical location, but in the quiet chambers of your own heart and mind. If you can hear my voice, if you can feel the subtle rise and fall of your breath as you listen, then you have already arrived. You are already here, in this moment, and that is the only requirement for what we are about to explore together. I want you to take a moment right now to notice something. Notice how your body is holding itself. Are your shoulders slightly raised? Is your jaw gently clenched? Is your brow furrowed about something that happened yesterday or might happen tomorrow? Just notice. There is no need to change anything. Simply become aware of how it feels to be you in this very second. In our modern world, we have become masters of distraction but amateurs of presence. We can scroll through hundreds of social media posts in an hour, but we cannot sit with our own thoughts for 5 minutes without reaching for our phones. This is not a personal failing. This is the condition of living in a world that never stops screaming for our attention. The ancient Buddhist teachings recognized this restlessness over 2,000 years ago. The Buddha himself, before his enlightenment, was a prince named Siddhartha who had every possible distraction at his fingertips. He had palaces, entertainment, and luxury beyond imagination. And yet, he discovered that none of these external things could bring lasting peace. The pleasures faded. The distractions grew stale. He had to look inward. What the Buddha discovered is that the mind is not our enemy, even when it feels chaotic. The mind is simply untrained, like a young wild horse that has never been gently guided. The problem is not that the mind wanders. The problem is that we believe the mind should not wander. This belief creates a war within ourselves that we can never win. If what I am sharing resonates deeply, if you feel a quiet recognition that there is another way to live, then I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you are making a commitment to yourself. You are saying, I am willing to show up. I am willing to learn. The subscribe button is not just a click. It is a statement of intention. Please take that step now if you feel called to do so. Now let me share a story about a woman named Grace. Grace was a nurse in a busy urban hospital. She worked 12-hour shifts in the emergency room, where chaos was the only constant. She saw things every day that most people would have nightmares about. She held the hands of dying strangers. She comforted families receiving the worst news of their lives. Grace came to a meditation retreat completely exhausted. She told me on the first day, I need this week to fix me. I need to leave here feeling peaceful and restored. I looked at this woman who had given so much of herself to others, and I felt deep compassion for her. She was carrying an impossible burden. During the retreat, Grace struggled. Her mind would not settle. Images from the emergency room kept flooding her awareness. She would hear phantom beeps from hospital monitors. She would see the faces of patients she had lost. On the fourth day, she came to me in tears. I'm failing, she said. This isn't working. I'm more disturbed now than when I arrived. I asked her a simple question. Grace, when you are in the emergency room and a patient is bleeding, do you get angry at the blood? Do you say, this blood should not be here? She looked at me confused and said, of course not. The blood is the reason I'm there. My job is to work with the blood. I said, exactly. The thoughts and emotions arising in your meditation are the blood of your inner emergency room. They are not interruptions to your practice. They are your practice. Your job is not to create a quiet mind. Your job is to be present with whatever arises. Something shifted in Grace in that moment. She stopped fighting her experience. She sat down for her next meditation session, and for the first time, she did not try to push anything away. The images came. The emotions came. The tears came. And she simply breathed through them all. By the end of the retreat, Grace was not fixed. She was not perfectly peaceful. But she was different. She had learned that peace is not the absence of chaos. Peace is the capacity to be with chaos without becoming chaos. She returned to the emergency room with a new understanding. The chaos would always be there. But she no longer had to be overwhelmed by it. This is the first mindset we must cultivate if we want to meditate every day. It is the willingness to meet each moment exactly as it is, without demanding that it be different. It is the understanding that the quality of your meditation is not measured by how peaceful you feel, but by how present you are willing to be. The Buddha called this the path of awareness. Not the path of perfect peace, but the path of perfect presence. When you stop judging your meditation, you free yourself to actually meditate. When you stop demanding that your mind be quiet, you create the conditions for genuine stillness to arise naturally, like water finding its own level. So as we begin this journey together, I invite you to make this first commitment. Commit to showing up exactly as you are. Not as you wish you were. Not as you think you should be. But exactly as you are in this moment. Bring nothing to your practice except your presence. Demand nothing from your practice except your awareness. And watch how everything begins to shift. Now we arrive at the second mindset, and this one cuts directly against the grain of everything our modern culture has taught us. This is the mindset of releasing expectations, of sitting down to meditate with absolutely no agenda for what should happen during your session. Think about how you approach most things in your life. You go to the gym expecting to get stronger. You go to work expecting to earn money. You cook a meal expecting to be nourished. Everything is goal-oriented. And then you sit down to meditate, and you bring this same mentality with you. You expect to become peaceful. You expect to have profound experiences. But meditation does not work this way. The more you expect a particular result, the less likely you are to achieve it. It is like trying to catch a butterfly by chasing it. The moment you run after it, the butterfly flies away. But if you sit quietly in a garden, completely still and open, the butterfly may eventually come and land on your shoulder. I want to share a story about a man named Thomas who learned this lesson. Thomas was a software engineer, a brilliant programmer who had built a career by solving complex problems. His mind was trained to find flaws and fix them. When he came to meditation, he approached it the same way. He saw his distracted mind as a bug in the system, and he was determined to fix it. Thomas would sit on his cushion and wage war against his thoughts. He would grip his attention onto his breath with such force that he would often end up with a headache. He would mentally scold himself every time his mind wandered. After several weeks, he was ready to quit. He told me, "I'm trying so hard, and nothing is happening. If anything, I feel more tense than when I started." I asked Thomas to try an experiment. I said, "For the next week, meditate with no goal whatsoever. Do not try to concentrate. Do not try to calm your mind. Just sit there and let your mind do whatever it wants. Your only job is to watch it all happen without interfering. Thomas looked at me like I had suggested something dangerous. But that's not meditation, he said. I smiled and said, just try it for 1 week. The next week, Thomas came back with a look of confusion. He said, something strange happened. The first few days, my mind went completely wild. It was like opening the door to a room filled with monkeys. They were jumping everywhere, making all kinds of noise. I just sat there and watched them. He continued, but then on the 4th day, something shifted. The monkeys started to calm down. Not because I was doing anything, but because I had stopped feeding them with my attention. By not fighting my thoughts, I was no longer giving them energy. And in that space, for the first time, I felt a moment of genuine stillness. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was real. It just appeared. Thomas had discovered a fundamental truth. The mind settles naturally when we stop trying to settle it. It is like a glass of muddy water. If you constantly stir the water, trying to make it clear, it remains cloudy forever. But if you set the glass down and leave it alone, the mud slowly settles, and the water becomes clear on its own. The Buddha understood this deeply. He taught that the mind, by its nature, is already peaceful. The problem is not the mind itself. The problem is the habits of grasping and aversion that we have layered on top. We grasp at pleasant thoughts and try to hold on to them. We push away unpleasant thoughts and try to eliminate them. This constant pushing and pulling keeps the mind agitated. When you sit with no expectations, you give the mind permission to be exactly as it is. You step out of the way and allow awareness to do its work. This does not mean you become passive. It requires tremendous vigilance to simply observe without interfering. It is harder to do nothing than to do something. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine you are standing on the bank of a wide river. Your thoughts are like boats floating downstream. If you try to stop every boat, if you jump in and grab onto each one, you will quickly become exhausted and drown. If you chase after certain boats and ride them wherever they go, you will be carried far away. But if you simply stand on the bank and watch the boats pass, you remain safe. You see each boat clearly as it approaches. You watch as it passes in front of you. And then you watch as it disappears downstream. You have not stopped any boats. You have not chased any boats. You have simply watched them come and go. This is the attitude we bring to meditation. Thoughts will come. They always do. But you do not have to jump into the river. You can simply watch them pass, knowing they are just thoughts, just temporary appearances in the vast sky of your awareness. When you practice like this, without expectation, meditation becomes enjoyable. It becomes a relief rather than a chore. You no longer sit down bracing for battle. You sit down with curiosity, wondering what will appear in the river today. There is a story about the Buddhist monk Ajahn Chah. A Western student once complained, "Ajahn, I have been meditating for months, and I am still filled with thoughts. I am not making any progress." Ajahn Chah laughed and said, "You are like someone who walks into their house, sees a mess, and complains that the house is not clean. But the mess was always there. You just weren't seeing it before. Your meditation is not creating the mess. It is revealing the mess." This is so important. When you start meditating, you may feel like your mind is getting worse. You may notice more thoughts than ever before. This is not failure. This is awareness growing. You are finally seeing what has always been there. So release your expectations. Release your goals. Simply sit down with the intention to be present for whatever arises. That is enough. That is the whole practice. Now we come to the third mindset, and this one addresses the single greatest obstacle that every meditator faces, the feeling of not having enough time. We live in a culture that worships busyness. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. We say things like, "I'm so busy," as if it measures our importance. And then we wonder why we cannot find time to sit quietly with ourselves. The truth is that you do not need more time. You need a different relationship with the time you already have. The problem is not that your days are too short. The problem is that your mind is too full. You are carrying yesterday on your back and reaching for tomorrow with your hands, leaving no room to actually experience today. I want to share a story about a woman named Patricia who taught me something profound about time. Patricia was a single mother of 3 young children. She worked full-time as a legal secretary. Her days began at 5 in the morning and did not end until long after her children were asleep. When she came to me, she was desperate. She said, "I know I need to meditate. I know it would help me. But I don't have 5 minutes in my entire day that belong to me. How can I possibly add one more thing to my life?" I looked at this woman who was doing the work of 3 people, and I felt nothing but respect. I said to her, "Patricia, I am not going to ask you to find more time. I am going to ask you to steal time. I am going to ask you to find moments that are already empty and fill them with presence." She looked confused. I continued, "When you are washing the dishes tonight, do not think about the work you have to do tomorrow. Do not rehearse conversations from today. Just wash the dishes. Feel the warm water on your hands. Notice the texture of the soap bubbles. Hear the sound of the plates clinking together. That is meditation. When you are waiting for the water to boil for your morning coffee, do not reach for your phone. Do not check your emails. Just stand there and wait. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your breath moving in and out. That is meditation. When you are driving your children to school, do not turn on the radio. Do not plan your day. Just drive. Feel your hands on the steering wheel. Notice the world passing by outside the window. That is meditation." Patricia laughed and said, "You mean I don't need to sit on a cushion?" I said, "The cushion is helpful. But presence is possible everywhere. The question is not whether you have time to meditate. The question is whether you are willing to be present in the time you already have." The Buddha taught about the importance of mindfulness in everyday activities. He did not tell his followers to retreat from the world forever. He told them to be mindful while walking, while eating, while working. Every moment is an opportunity for practice. Every activity can become a meditation. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine you are walking through a forest, trying to reach a beautiful waterfall on the other side. You are so focused on reaching the waterfall that you rush through the forest without seeing anything. You do not notice the sunlight through the leaves. You do not hear the birds singing. You do not feel the soft moss beneath your feet. You are so fixated on the destination that you miss the entire journey. When you finally reach the waterfall, you are exhausted and distracted. You cannot fully enjoy it because your mind is still rushing. And soon, you are already thinking about the walk back. This is how most of us live. We are always trying to get somewhere else. We believe that happiness is just around the corner, just beyond the next achievement. But the corner never comes. And we spend our entire lives rushing toward a destination we never reach. Meditation is the practice of stopping. It is arriving fully in this moment, right here, right now, even if this moment is just washing dishes or waiting for water to boil. When you stop rushing, you discover that the waterfall is not somewhere in the future. The waterfall is here. The peace is here. I worked with a man named Richard who was a Wall Street trader. His entire world was measured in milliseconds. His stress levels were through the roof, and he came to me because he was on the verge of a breakdown. He said, "I need to learn to relax, but I can't slow down. My whole job is about speed." I taught Richard a simple practice. I told him that for 1 minute each day, he would do nothing. He would simply sit and breathe. 1 minute. He looked at me like I was asking him to climb Everest. The first few days, he struggled. His hands twitched, reaching for his phone. His eyes darted around the room. His mind screamed at him to get back to work. But he persisted. After a week, the 1 minute started to feel like a relief. After a month, he extended it to 2 minutes. After a year, he was meditating for 20 minutes every morning. He told me later, "I used to think that time was money. Now I understand that time is life. And I was spending my life so quickly that I never actually lived it." This is the invitation for you. Not to find more time, but to inhabit the time you have more fully. Not to add another task to your list, but to transform the tasks already on your list into opportunities for presence. Now we arrive at the fourth mindset, and this is perhaps the most tender and vulnerable of them all. This is the mindset of being gentle with yourself. If there is one thing that will destroy your meditation practice faster than anything else, it is self-criticism. It is the inner voice that tells you that you are doing it wrong, that you are not good enough, that everyone else is better at this than you are. This voice is not your friend. This voice is not a helpful coach. This voice is a tyrant that has taken up residence in your mind, and it must be gently shown the door. The Buddha taught about the importance of loving kindness toward oneself. He understood that you cannot hate your way into peace. You cannot bully your way into stillness. You cannot shame your way into enlightenment. I want to share a story about a young man named Marcus who learned this lesson in the most difficult way. Marcus was a perfectionist in every area of his life. He was a talented musician who could spend hours practicing a single passage until it was flawless. When he came to meditation, he brought this same perfectionism with him. Marcus would sit on his cushion and demand complete concentration. The moment his mind wandered, he would mentally punish himself. "You're so weak," he would think. "You can't even focus for 10 seconds. After each session, he would rate himself on a scale of 1 to 10. Most days, he gave himself a 2. He was perpetually disappointed. After several months, Marcus was ready to quit. He came to me and said, "I have failed at meditation. I am just not cut out for this." I looked at this young man who had accomplished so much through sheer force of will, and I felt deep sadness. He had turned meditation into another battlefield. I asked Marcus to try something different. I said, "For the next month, meditate without judging yourself at all. When you notice your mind has wandered, do not scold yourself. Instead, say something kind. Say, "It's okay. This is what minds do. I am learning." And then gently bring your attention back to your breath. Marcus looked skeptical. "If I'm not hard on myself, how will I improve?" I said, "Marcus, have you ever tried to comfort a crying baby by yelling at it?" He shook his head. "Then why would you treat your own mind, which is infinitely more delicate, with such harshness?" The next month, Marcus returned with a different energy. He was calmer. Softer. He told me, "The first week was strange. I kept waiting for the criticism, but I stopped it every time. I replaced it with kindness. And something happened. My mind started to settle. Not because I was forcing it, but because it felt safe." He went on, "I realized something important. The reason I was so harsh in meditation is that I am harsh with myself everywhere. I have been treating myself like an enemy my whole life. And for the first time, I am learning what it feels like to be my own friend. This is the heart of the practice. Meditation is not about achieving a special state. It is about making friends with yourself. It is about creating a relationship with your own mind based on kindness rather than criticism. The Buddha understood this when he taught the 4 divine abodes of the heart. The first is loving kindness, and it begins with yourself. You cannot truly love others until you have learned to love yourself. The meditation cushion is where this learning happens. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine teaching a young child to ride a bicycle. The child falls down. They make mistakes. How do you respond? Do you shout, "You're terrible at this"? Of course not. You are gentle. You help them up and say, "That was a great try. Let's try again." You create an environment of safety. Slowly, the child learns. Your mind is that child. It has been riding the bicycle of life without any training, falling down countless times. Now you are trying to teach it something new. If you approach with harshness, your mind will resist. But if you approach with gentleness, your mind will relax. It will begin to trust you. There is a story about a Buddhist monk who was struggling. He went to his teacher and said, "I am filled with negative thoughts. I am a failure." The teacher looked at him with compassion and said, "You are like a man who looks in a mirror and sees only dirt on the glass. The dirt is there, yes. But the mirror itself is pure. Your true nature is the mirror, not the dirt." This is what gentleness does. It allows you to see past the temporary distractions and recognize the pure awareness that has always been there. The thoughts come and go. But the awareness that notices them is already perfect. So as you continue, remember this. Be gentle with yourself. When your mind wanders 1,000 times, bring it back 1,000 times with kindness. When you miss a day, do not punish yourself. Simply start again. This gentleness is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Now we arrive at the 5th mindset, and this one builds directly upon everything we have discussed so far. This is the mindset of consistency over intensity. It is the understanding that showing up for 5 minutes every day is infinitely more powerful than showing up for 1 hour once a month. In our culture, we are drawn to the dramatic. We love the idea of the weekend retreat, the intensive course, the transformational experience. We want to be enlightened overnight. We want the quick fix, the sudden breakthrough. But the Buddha's path is not like this. The Buddha's path is like water wearing away stone. It happens drop by drop, moment by moment, day by day. I want to share a story about a woman named Helen who learned this lesson through gardening. Helen was a busy corporate lawyer who decided she wanted to grow vegetables in her backyard. She had visions of abundant harvests, fresh tomatoes, crisp lettuce, all from her own garden. She went to the nursery, bought expensive plants and tools, and spent an entire weekend digging, planting, and watering. The first week, she was dedicated. She checked her garden every morning. She watered carefully. She pulled every weed she saw. But by the second week, her work called her back. She had late nights at the office. She traveled for a case. She forgot to water. When she finally returned to her garden, many of her plants were wilted and dying. She felt like a failure. Helen came to me frustrated. "I can't even keep plants alive," she said. "I'm just not good at this kind of thing." I asked her, "Helen, what would happen if you watered your plants for just 2 minutes every single day, no matter what?" She looked at me and said, "They would probably live." "But 2 minutes isn't enough time to really garden." I said, 2 minutes every day is over 12 hours of consistent care across a year. Compare that to one intense weekend followed by weeks of neglect. Which do you think would produce a healthier garden? Helen saw the point immediately. She started a new practice. Every morning, before she left for work, she spent 2 minutes in her garden. Sometimes she watered. Sometimes she just looked. Sometimes she pulled a single weed. But she showed up every single day. Within months, her garden was thriving. Not because of any single intense session, but because of the accumulated power of daily attention. Your mind is Helen's garden. A single intense meditation session, no matter how profound, will not transform your mind. But 5 minutes every day, day after day, month after month, will slowly and fundamentally rewire your brain. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. The Buddha called it cultivation. There is a story from the Buddhist tradition about a student who asked his teacher, "How long will it take me to become enlightened if I meditate intensely for 8 hours every day?" The teacher said, 20 years. The student was disappointed. He asked, "What if I meditate for 12 hours every day?" The teacher said, 30 years. The student was shocked. But why would meditating more take longer? The teacher smiled and said, "Because you will be too exhausted to see clearly. Because you will burn out and quit. Because intensity without consistency is like a fire that burns bright but consumes all its fuel in a single night. The slow, steady fire warms the house for generations." The student then asked, "What if I meditate for 30 minutes every day, with patience and consistency?" The teacher said, "Enlightenment will come when it comes. But more importantly, you will have a life of practice. You will not be waiting for a future result. You will be living the path itself. This is the wisdom we must embrace. Stop looking for the dramatic breakthrough. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop believing you need more time, more silence, more retreats. What you need is consistency. You need to show up, day after day, even when it feels small, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Think of a potter at the wheel. With each gentle turn, the clay shapes itself. No single turn makes the pot. But 1,000 turns, patiently applied, create something beautiful and useful. You are both the potter and the clay. Each meditation session is one turn of the wheel. Do not judge the pot by a single turn. Trust the process. Keep turning. Think also of the bamboo farmer. After planting the seed, they water it daily for years with no visible growth above ground. But beneath the soil, an extensive root system is spreading, preparing to support rapid growth. Then in the 5th year, the bamboo shoots up over 80 feet in just 6 weeks. The growth appeared sudden, but it was built on years of invisible preparation. Your meditation practice is like that bamboo. You may sit for months with no visible progress. But beneath the surface, something is happening. Roots are spreading. Stability is developing. And one day, without warning, you will find yourself responding to a difficult situation with a peace that was not there before. That peace did not appear suddenly. It was built through thousands of unnoticed moments of practice. So release your attachment to visible results. Embrace the power of showing up. Let consistency be your teacher. Let daily practice be your path. The results will come, not because you chased them, but because you created the conditions for them to grow naturally, like a garden watered one drop at a time. Now we arrive at the 6th mindset, and this one addresses a subtle but powerful obstacle that arises for every dedicated meditator. This is the mindset of non-attachment to experiences, the willingness to let go of even the most beautiful and peaceful states of mind. When people begin meditating, they often have moments of profound peace, moments of deep stillness, moments of genuine insight. These experiences are wonderful. They are encouraging. They show us what is possible. But they can also become a trap. We can become attached to these experiences. We can start chasing them, trying to recreate them, judging our practice by whether we have them again. The Buddha called this grasping, and he taught that grasping is the root of all suffering. When we grasp at pleasant experiences, we create the conditions for our own dissatisfaction. The pleasant experience, by its very nature, is impermanent. It will pass. And when it passes, if we are attached to it, we suffer. I want to share a story about a man named Arthur who learned this lesson through music. Arthur was an amateur pianist who loved to play Chopin. He had a small piano in his living room, and every evening he would sit and play for an hour. Music was his meditation, his refuge from a stressful job in finance. One evening, something extraordinary happened. Arthur sat down to play his favorite nocturne, and everything came together perfectly. His fingers moved without effort. The music flowed through him. He lost all sense of time and self. For those few minutes, he was simply the music itself. It was the most profound experience of his life. The next evening, Arthur sat down eager to recreate the experience. He played the same piece. He tried to summon the same feeling. But it would not come. His playing felt mechanical. His mind was filled with thoughts about the previous night. He kept trying to force the magic to return, and the more he tried, the further it receded. After several weeks of this, Arthur stopped playing altogether. The piano sat silent. The joy was gone. Arthur came to me deeply discouraged. He said, I had one perfect moment, and now I can't find it again. Maybe it was just a fluke. I said to him, Arthur, imagine you are walking along a beach and you find a beautiful shell. It is perfect, delicate, glowing in the sunlight. You pick it up and hold it in your hand, filled with wonder. Now imagine that you spend the rest of your walk searching for another shell exactly like that one. You ignore all the other beautiful shells. You ignore the sound of the waves. You ignore the feeling of sand beneath your feet. You are so fixated on recreating that one moment that you missed the entire beach. Arthur understood immediately. He said, so I need to stop looking for that perfect night? I said, you need to honor that night as a gift, not as a goal. It showed you something beautiful. But now you must let it go. Come to your piano each evening with fresh eyes. Do not play to recreate the past. Play to discover what this moment holds. Arthur returned to his piano with a new attitude. He stopped chasing the perfect night. He simply played, night after night, with no expectations. And something interesting happened. The perfect moments returned, but not when he was looking for them. They came unexpectedly, like uninvited guests, and they left just as quietly. He learned to enjoy them while they were there and let them go when they departed. This is exactly how we must approach meditation. You will have beautiful experiences. You will have moments of profound peace. You will have insights that feel like they could change your life. Treasure them while they are present. But when they pass, let them pass. Do not chase them. Do not compare future sessions to past ones. Each session is new. Each breath is fresh. The Buddha told a story about a man who was shot with a poisoned arrow. His friends brought a doctor to remove the arrow and save his life. But the man refused treatment until he knew the name of the man who shot the arrow, the village he came from, the type of wood the arrow was made from. He died before any of his questions could be answered. This story illustrates the danger of getting lost in experiences rather than focusing on liberation. Beautiful meditation experiences can become distractions if we obsess over them. The goal is not to collect experiences. The goal is freedom. And freedom comes from letting go of everything, even the most beautiful experiences. There is a Zen story about a famous master who was visited by a young monk. The monk said, "Master, I had a wonderful experience in meditation yesterday. I saw brilliant lights and felt overwhelming bliss. What does this mean?" The master looked at him and said, "Did it help you let go of your attachments?" The monk thought for a moment and said, "No, it made me want more of it." The master said, "Then it was just another distraction." This is the test for any meditation experience. Does it lead to greater freedom or greater attachment? Does it help you let go or make you want to hold on? True meditation deepens your capacity to release, to open, to allow everything to come and go without clinging. So when peace arises, enjoy it. When insights come, learn from them. But hold them lightly, like birds that may stay for a moment but will eventually fly away. Do not build cages for them. Do not try to keep them forever. Let them come. Let them go. And rest in the awareness that witnesses both the coming and the going. That awareness is your true home. Now we arrive at the seventh mindset, and this one is about bringing meditation off the cushion and into your everyday life. Many people make the mistake of thinking that meditation is something you do for 20 minutes in the morning, and then the rest of your life is something else entirely. But this separation is an illusion. True meditation is not an activity. It is a way of being. The Buddha did not teach meditation as an escape from life. He taught it as a way to live more fully, more consciously, more compassionately. The awareness you cultivate on the cushion is meant to accompany you into every conversation, every meal, every moment of work and rest. It is not a coat you put on and take off. It is the skin you live in. I want to share a story about a woman named Diane who understood this better than anyone I have ever met. Diane was a hospice nurse. She spent her days with people who were dying, holding their hands, listening to their fears, comforting their families. It was not an easy job. Most people would find it depressing. But Diane found it sacred. Diane had been meditating for many years, but she never talked about it. She never went on retreats. She never wore anything that marked her as a spiritual person. She simply brought the quality of her meditation practice into every room she entered. When she sat with a dying patient, she was completely present. She did not rush. She did not try to fix anything. She simply held space for whatever was arising. One day, I asked Diane how she managed to do this work without burning out. She thought for a moment and said, "I learned a long time ago that my job is not to save anyone. My job is to be with them. That's all. Just be with them." And being with someone who is dying is not so different from being with my own breath in meditation. Both require the same thing, showing up fully and not running away. Diane had discovered the secret. Meditation is not about escaping discomfort. It is about learning to be with discomfort so skillfully that it no longer controls you. And when you learn to be with your own discomfort, you become capable of being with the discomfort of others. This is compassion in its most practical form. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine you are learning to swim. You start in the shallow end, where you can touch the bottom. You practice floating. You practice putting your face in the water. You build confidence. But eventually, you must leave the shallow end. The deep water is where swimming really happens. The deep water is where you discover that you can float without touching anything. The cushion is your shallow end. It is where you practice. But the deep water is your life. It is where you discover that you can remain present even in the most difficult circumstances. It is where you learn that awareness can hold anything, even grief, even fear, even loss. There is a story from the Buddhist tradition about a monk who attained deep states of concentration in meditation. He could sit for hours without moving, completely absorbed in bliss. He came to his teacher and said, "I have achieved great peace in my meditation. I feel no attachment to the world." The teacher looked at him and said, "That is good. Now go visit your family." The monk was confused. He had left his family years ago to pursue the spiritual path. Why would his teacher send him back? But he trusted his teacher and went. When he arrived home, his elderly mother wept with joy. His brothers embraced him. His childhood home stirred memories he had forgotten. And he felt his heart crack open with love and grief. When he returned to the teacher, he was in tears. "I thought I was free," he said. "But I am not free at all. The love for my mother is overwhelming. The pain of leaving her again is unbearable. The teacher smiled and said, "Now your practice can begin." You were not free from attachment. You were just hiding from it. True freedom is not the absence of feeling. True freedom is the capacity to feel everything without being destroyed by it. This is what it means to bring meditation into life. It means allowing yourself to feel everything, to love deeply, to grieve fully, to be completely human, while resting in the awareness that holds it all. It means not running from difficulty and not grasping at pleasure. It means being present for whatever life brings. So as you continue your practice, remember this. The cushion is your training ground, but life is your true meditation. Every difficult conversation is an opportunity to practice presence. Every moment of waiting in line is an opportunity to breathe. Every interaction with a stranger is an opportunity to offer kindness. Do not keep your meditation locked away in a separate compartment. Let it seep into everything. Let it color every moment. Let it transform not just your quiet moments, but your loud ones too. This is the path of integration. This is the path of wholeness. This is the path that the Buddha walked, and it is the path that is available to you, right here, right now, in this very breath. Now we arrive at the 8th mindset, and this one is perhaps the most challenging of all. This is the mindset of embracing difficulty, of welcoming the uncomfortable moments in meditation rather than avoiding them. It is natural to want peace, to want calm, to want pleasant experiences. But the path of meditation asks us to go beyond our preferences and meet everything with equal openness. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from resistance. We suffer not because difficult experiences happen, but because we fight against them. We tense up. We push away. We create a second layer of suffering on top of the original difficulty. The practice is to drop this resistance, to open to whatever is present, even when it is painful. I want to share a story about a man named Frank who learned this lesson in a way he would never forget. Frank was a retired firefighter. He had spent 30 years running into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. He had seen things that would haunt most people forever. When he came to meditation, he was hoping for peace, for relief from the memories that stalked him. But meditation did not give Frank peace, at least not at first. When he sat on his cushion, the memories came flooding back. The sounds of crackling fire. The screams of trapped victims. The faces of fellow firefighters who did not make it out. Frank would sit for a few minutes, become overwhelmed, and get up. He tried everything to make the memories go away. He focused harder on his breath. He repeated mantras. He visualized light. Nothing worked. Frank came to me frustrated and ready to quit. He said, "Meditation is making things worse. I came here for peace, and I'm getting nightmares." I looked at this man who had spent his life running toward danger while others ran away, and I felt deep respect. I said to him, "Frank, you spent 30 years running into burning buildings. You did not run away from fire. You ran toward it. Can you do the same with these memories?" Frank looked confused. "What do you mean?" he asked. I said, "Instead of trying to make the memories go away, try turning toward them. Welcome them. Invite them in. Not as enemies to be defeated, but as guests to be received. They are part of your story. They are part of who you are. Can you sit with them the way you would sit with an old friend who has difficult things to share? Frank was silent for a long time. Then he said, I never thought of it that way. I've been running from these memories my whole life. Maybe it's time to stop running. The next week, Frank returned with a different energy. He said, I tried what you suggested. When the memories came, I didn't push them away. I just sat there and breathed into them. It was terrible at first. I cried. I shook. But then something shifted. The memories didn't disappear, but they stopped having so much power over me. I realized that the memories themselves weren't the problem. The problem was my fear of them. Frank had discovered a profound truth. What we resist persists. What we fight fights back. But what we welcome, what we make space for, what we hold with gentle awareness, gradually loses its power to harm us. The memories were still there. They always would be. But Frank was no longer their prisoner. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine you are standing in the ocean and a large wave is approaching. If you try to fight the wave, if you tense your body and brace for impact, the wave will crash into you and knock you down. You will be tumbled and disoriented. But if you dive into the wave, if you meet it with openness and surrender, it will pass over you and leave you standing. The wave is the same either way. Your relationship to it makes all the difference. Difficult emotions are like that wave. Grief is like that wave. Fear is like that wave. Trauma is like that wave. You can brace against them and be knocked down. Or you can dive into them with awareness and let them pass through you. The choice is yours in every moment. The Buddha taught about the second arrow. The first arrow is the painful event itself. The second arrow is our reaction to it, our resistance, our aversion, our self-pity. The first arrow may be unavoidable. But the second arrow is entirely optional. When you welcome difficulty in meditation, you are learning to stop shooting yourself with the second arrow. There is a story about a famous meditation teacher who was diagnosed with a painful chronic illness. His students came to visit him, expecting to find him suffering. Instead, they found him peaceful. One student asked, "Teacher, how can you be at peace with so much pain?" The teacher held up his hand and said, "The pain is here, yes. But the suffering is optional. I let the pain be here without adding anything to it. It is just sensation. It comes and goes like everything else." This is the freedom available to all of us. Not freedom from difficulty, but freedom in the midst of difficulty. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain does not have to become suffering. So when you sit to meditate and discomfort arises, whether physical or emotional, try something new. Instead of tensing against it, instead of wishing it away, instead of judging yourself for having it, simply breathe into it. Make space for it. Let it be there. You might discover that you are larger than any discomfort, that your awareness can hold anything, that even the most difficult experiences can be met with peace. Now we arrive at the final mindset, and this one brings everything together. This is the mindset of trust, of faith in the process, of believing that the path you are walking is leading somewhere, even when you cannot see the destination. In our modern world, We have been trained to trust only what we can see, measure, and prove. We want evidence. We want data. We want guarantees. But the inner journey does not work this way. The inner journey requires a different kind of trust, a willingness to continue even when there are no visible results, a faith that the seed planted in darkness is somehow growing. I want to share a story about a woman named Clara who embodied this trust. Clara was a farmer's daughter who had grown up watching her father work the land. She understood something that many of us have forgotten. That growth happens in darkness, that the most important work is invisible, that patience is not passive but active. When Clara came to meditation, she was already in her 60s. She had raised children, buried a husband, survived illnesses, and watched the world change in ways she could never have imagined. She told me, "I wish I had found meditation earlier. I wish I had known about this when I was young and struggling." I said to her, "Clara, you have been meditating your whole life. Every time you sat on your porch and watched the sunset, that was meditation. Every time you knelt in the garden and felt the soil in your hands, that was meditation. Every time you held a crying child and just breathed, that was meditation. You did not need a cushion. You had the earth." Clara smiled and said, "I never thought of it that way. I just thought I was living my life." I said, "That is exactly what meditation is. It is living your life with awareness. It is not something added on top. It is something uncovered beneath. This is the final teaching. Meditation is not a technique you learn. It is a quality you remember. It is not something you do. It is something you are. The practices we have discussed, the mindsets we have explored, are not meant to turn you into someone different. They are meant to reveal who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning, distraction, and fear. Let me offer you a final metaphor. Imagine you are walking through a dark forest at night. You cannot see the path ahead. You cannot see your destination. You can only see the small circle of ground illuminated by your lantern. Each step forward reveals just enough to take the next step. This is the spiritual path. You cannot see the end from the beginning. You cannot know where this practice will lead you. You can only take the next step, and then the next, trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. The lantern is your awareness. It illuminates just enough for this moment. That is all you need. The Buddha on the night of his enlightenment was tempted by Mara, the embodiment of doubt and fear. Mara came to him and said, "Who are you to think you can become enlightened? You are just a man. You are not special. Give up this foolish quest." The Buddha did not argue with Mara. He simply reached down and touched the earth, calling the earth to witness his practice, his countless lifetimes of showing up, his unwavering commitment to the path. This is what you must do when doubt arises. Touch the earth of your own experience. Remember the times you showed up even when you did not want to. Remember the breaths you have taken with awareness. Remember the moments of kindness you have offered yourself. Let these be your witness. Let them remind you that you are capable of more than you know. So as we come to the end of our time together, I want to leave you with this. Your meditation practice is not about achieving anything. It is about returning home to yourself. It is about discovering that the peace you seek is not somewhere else, not in some future moment, not in some perfected version of yourself. It is here, now, beneath the noise, beneath the distraction, beneath the doubt. You are already whole. You are already enough. You are already what you are seeking. The practice is simply remembering this, again and again, moment after moment, breath after breath. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for your willingness to show up, to sit, to breathe, to be. The temple is not here. It is not in this voice or these words. The temple is within you. It always has been. It always will be. May your practice be joyful. May your heart be light. May you be gentle with yourself on this beautiful, difficult, miraculous journey. And may you never forget that every breath is an invitation to begin again. This is Monk's Temple, reminding you that you are never alone on this path. Go well, go kindly, go peacefully.